One Tuesday morning it looked like rain. Around the curve come a passenger train. On the blind side, old Bill Jones, he's a good old hobo and he's trying to get home. Trying to get home. Trying to get home. He's a good old hobo and he's trying to get home. Way down in Georgia on a tramp, the roads are getting muddy and the leaves are getting damp. Gotta catch a freight train and leave this town, 'cause they don't allow hobos hanging around. Hanging around. Hanging around. 'Cause they don't allow hobos hanging around. I left Atlanta one morning for a day. The brakeman said, you'll have to pay. Got no money but I'll pawn my shoes. Gonna go out west, I got the Milwaukee Blues. Milwaukee Blues. Got the Milwaukee Blues. Wanna go out west, I got the Milwaukee Blues. Old Bill Jones said before he died, fix the road so the boys can ride. When they ride the rods. Put all their trust in the hands of God. Hands of God. In the hands of God. They'll put all their trust in the hands of God. Old Bill Jones said before he died, there's 2 more roads he'd like to ride. Fireman said, what can it be? Southern Pacific and the Santa Fe. Santa Fe. The Santa Fe. Southern Pacific and the Santa Fe. That's Milwaukee Blues by the great songwriter, banjo player, bandleader Charlie Poole. We're going to learn this song on the baritone uke. First of all, we're just going to strum the chords and look at how the slightly unusual bar structure works here. Then we're going to introduce the right hand and do a nice little bit of picking if you want to take the song to another level. The great thing about songs like this is that they follow a pattern for every verse that's the same. So we don't have to learn a verse, a chorus, a middle 8. Once we've got into our pattern, we can just leave that going round and round and round while we sing over the top of it. And this one has got a 16 bar pattern, though there is a little bit of a catch for that, as you can probably see from the chart on the screen here. It's not very even. And by the way, if you want to download the lyrics, the chord and the chart for this, there's a link down below in the description. First of all, let's have a look at the chords we've got. We're going to play it in the key of G. So we need a G chord. We also need a D7 chord. And we're going to need a C chord. And it's up to you whether you play your C chord with 2 fingers or your C chord with 3 fingers with that extra note on the top. They're both a C chord, they just sound a little bit different. It's up to you. At one point we're also going to briefly make our G into a G7. Though later on when we introduce the picking, we're going to do a little run there instead. But we'll talk about that later. So let's just strum through the chart. When we get to the second line, you'll notice that one of the boxes with a D7 in is a smaller box than all the others. Now, normally when we chart a song like this, that box will be how many beats there are in a bar. So we're in 4/4 time, so every box is a count of 4. And if you see a percentage mark in a box, it just means keep doing what you did in the last bar. So let's look at the first line. That'll explain all of that, and then we'll see what's going on in the second line. On the first line, we're going to play a G for 4 beats, and then another 4 beats, and then a D7 for 4 beats, and then another 4 beats. On the next line, back to G for 4 beats, then C for 4 beats, then G again for 4 beats, then, we've got a D7 here, but this box is half the size of all the other boxes, and that's because it's half as long. It's going to go 1, 2, and then we're in the next bar, which is a G. And just to make matters slightly more confusing, this bar is also split into 2 chords. So we have 1, 2, and then our G7, 3, 4. So that second line is 2 beats longer than the first line. But don't worry, because the last line is 2 beats shorter, so everything adds up in the end. I'll talk about why we're doing that and why we aren't just continually counting to 4 on that in a moment, but let's just get that first half done. Let's play it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, G, D7, G, C, G, D7, G, G7. Okay, now that G to G7 really gives us a strong feeling that we want to go to a C chord. And later on, when we replace that with a little run, that will also do the same thing. It'll set us up for that change to C. So the next line, nice and simple, 4 bars, a bit like the first line. We have a chord, then we do it again for another bar, then we change chord, then we do it again for another bar. But this time it's C, 2, 4, and G. Then the last line has another sneaky D7 that only lasts 2 beats. It starts off on the same chord we're already playing, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, D7, 2, and G, 2, 3, 4, and another one. And then that is the same for every verse of the song. So why have I chopped that chart around and made 2 half bars and moved them around? Well, it's because we're used to hearing the strong chord changes on the first beat of the bar, and the lyrics will have important words landing on the first beat of the bar. And if I didn't do that and we got to that D7 and I just played the first 2 beats of the D7 chord on the second line and then changed to a G for beats 3 and 4 and then changed to the next 2 beats will be in the next bar, the whole of the rest of the song I'd be changing mid-bar and it would feel a little bit off kilter and weird. Whereas this way we keep our strong beats and our strong words all lined up nicely. It's something that happens in a lot of old songs. And it's one of those things that you sort of get used to the more you hear. Extra bars stuck on or half a bar chopped off. And it's really because what's leading the song here is the melody and the singing. We're not trying to squeeze the words around the accompaniment. We're putting the accompaniment around the words and the melody. So let's just go through it nice and slowly and sing verse 1. All I'm doing with my right hand at the moment is just keeping time, just strumming on the beats. And see if you can make those chord changes work and see how they fit with the lyrics. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. One Tuesday morning and it looked like rain. Around the curve come a passenger train. On the blind sat old Bill Jones, a good old hobo, and he's trying to get home. Trying to get home. He's trying to get home. He's a good old hobo and he's trying to get home. Seems a bit odd, but notice how things like trying to get home at the end, trying to get home. It feels right to land on a new chord and sing the word home on the first beat of that bar. Now you can just strum and sing that song and it's a great song to sing. But sometimes when we've got a song like this that hasn't got a lot of fancy chord changes or anything like that happening in it, it's really nice to be able to introduce something with our right hand. So let's have a look at some picking that we can do. Now I'm just putting my thumb and finger picks on. You absolutely do not need to have thumb and finger picks. This is just something I do, but I'm mentioning it because you're going to see them on my thumb and fingers and wonder what's going on. So I've got 2 finger picks and a thumb pick on there, but it's mainly because I've been a nail biter all my life and I don't have any fingernails and it lets me get a bit more volume out of it. So this is what I was doing with my right hand through most of this. I'm not fixed to a picking pattern. I've got an idea of what I want to do and then I can simplify it or I can add things in, often depending on whether I'm singing or not. So when I'm singing I might simplify it and when I'm not singing I might add something in there. This is the kind of thing that I was doing and I'm going to zoom in on my right hand so you can see it. That's my first pattern. What am I doing? My first and second fingers are plucking up on the B and E strings and my thumb is starting off on the D at the same time and then it's moving across to the G. So I'm getting a different note from my thumb on each beat, back and forth, but my chord is staying the same. that's a really simple pattern, but when you're singing, you might want to simplify it. But sometimes I'll do this. I might just throw the odd one in. So what's happening there? Well, instead of pinching everything at the same time, my thumb never stops doing this. So instead of going pinch, pinch, I might just go thumb, second finger on the E, thumb on the G, first finger on the B. Or I might do something like that. Thumb and fingers together, thumb and fingers together, thumb on its own, fingers on their own, thumb. And in reality, I'm going to just start messing around with those to suit what's happening at the time. So let me play through a verse and sing it, and you can have a look at what my right hand is doing. One Tuesday morning and it looked like rain. Around the curve come a passenger train. On the blind side, old Bill Jones, a good old hobo, and he's trying to get home. He's trying to get home. He's trying to get home. He's a good old hobo and he's trying to get home. So I did all sorts of different things there where I just maybe put one extra little note in or missed out quite a lot and let the thumb carry the rhythm. So that's a common one. Or I could play the chord and then thumb, second finger, thumb again. Just as long as my thumb keeps doing this. Although at one point I did a little walk up, and that's what I'm going to teach you in a moment. Now on the second line, where we had that short bar of D7, and then we had a G, which immediately turns to a G7. I said earlier that G7 was really telling everyone, here comes the chord change. Here comes that C chord. And when you're strumming chords, that's a great thing to be able to do, is to set up the chord change. Give everyone a little warning of, oh, we're going to change now. But when we were picking, I did something else that has a similar effect. I walked up. So it's almost like having an imaginary bass player who's just done a nice little walking bass line to lead us to the next chord. And I had to break out of my pattern to do that. And this is where, even if you're used to finger picking, when you break out to play a little single note line like that, it can be quite hard to get back in again. So this will take a bit of practice. But this is where it is. We've got our 2 beats of our D7 chord. 1, 2, and then we go to G. And instead of going G7, we go G. So I've played the open G string, then the G string at the 2nd fret, then the open B string, and the next note is going to be the 1st fret of the B string, but that's in the next bar, and that note belongs in our C chord. So we've got to try and get the timing right here. We're going to have 4 beats in this bar. It's going to start with a G chord, and it's going to go G. However we happen to be finger picking, it might be one of those pinchers, or maybe just the thumb and one finger. Whatever you feel like doing at that point, we hit the G. Then my right hand thumb is going to play the open G on beat 2, then the 2nd fret on the G on beat 3. Then I'm going to play the B string on beat 4, and then I need to play that one, the 1st fret of the B string, but I also need my thumb to hit my low D and then get back into my pattern. So this is what it sounds like. Okay, I'll do that again. I'm going from the G chord just before that short bar of D7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm into the rest of the song. So I'll play that for you now. I'll sing the line leading up to it, and you can see it in context. On the blind, sad old Bill Jones, he's a good old hobo. He's trying to get home, he's trying to get home. See how it follows the vocal? He's trying to get home. It doesn't always follow it exactly, but it's pretty close on most of the verses. So it's a nice little thing you can put in. The most important thing about this song is to keep that steady thumb going, except when you're doing that little walk. And don't try and put too much stuff in. Just get a nice beat going, let the thumb carry it along. Give yourself enough space to be able to fit all the words in, because they're quite a lot of words. Don't go too fast, otherwise you'll be stumbling over all the syllables. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.